Yo, welcome back, guys. This is No Bullshit Podcast. This is Coughlin.
What's up, it's Kai?
And yeah, man, we kind of hinted it in our last video, doing our little, overview about the Super Bowl and stuff like that, right? But this is a new little, thing that we got going on. You see Makai over here got the Sixers jersey. I got the, Luca jersey right here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we're gonna be diving into NBA basketball, man. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's a nice transition as after the football season is over. So it's cool to see how the NBA is doing, and it's the second half of the season now, right? So
Yep.
this is like the nitty gritty. When
Mm-hmm.
things get real interesting. Playoff basketball is a different type of basketball, man. So
Absolutely.
with that said, take it away with your reactions to the All Star break and stuff like that.
Um, I feel like I don't know. Every year is a conversation of is unfortunately is this the worst All Star weekend we ever seen? And it all boils down to the biggest attractions are the dunk contest and the All Star game, right? Um, both were pretty lackluster. Um, Me personally, I feel as though there's no real fixing the dunk contest as it's currently constructed. Like, I was talking to one of my homies a couple of days ago about it, and one thing that he offered, he was like, well, why don't the NBA kind of contract guys outside of the league, like guys that are just full time professional dunkers, because one of the things about the modern NBA is, these players are uber talented, right? This is the most talent that we've seen in the league, of all time. And with that talent, a lot of these guys don't have time to practice dunks. You know what I mean? They're more, footwork and shooting and whatever. Like, they don't really have enough time to really practice these dunks. But if you kind of go outside of the NBA and just look at these, everyday guys that you get, some of the best dunkers around the world where, I don't know, you put some money on the line where there's some bragging rights of being considered the best dunker in the world. Like, I feel like that would be an attraction. Like, yeah, you wouldn't get, the household names, the NBA players doing it, but I feel like that would pump some juice into the event, right? Having some outside guys come in and, compete. But with the All-Star game, I mean, I've heard suggestions of putting money on the line the same way they did with the in-season tournament, but I feel like it's just a different era, man. Like, these guys, I mean, unless you incentivize it with money, these guys aren't gonna go 100% or even
Mm-hmm.
80% in an All-Star game. You know what I mean? Like, in my opinion, this is the fans' fault, in my opinion, and I'll explain. Kind of something that we've heard a lot. We know Damian Lillard about the whole ring culture, right? Because NBA fans or really sports fans in general put so much um, stock in playoff success or what you do in the playoffs. A lot of these players don't care about the regular season. A lot of these players don't care about the All Star break because all they care about is the postseason, making sure that they're healthy for the postseason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing because, you know, if you're if you're a guy that's routinely on a team that does not perform well in the playoffs, you can have all the crazy numbers in the world in the regular season. You can play all 82 games, but what will be on Twitter? Oh well, we'll see if he can do it in the playoffs. He didn't do that
Yeah.
last year in the playoffs. So you're discrediting everything he's doing in the regular season for the playoffs, right? But then if you got a player like a Kawhi Leonard, if you got a player like, a Paul George in the past where they low managed during the regular season to be
Mm-hmm.
prepared for the postseason, well now they got a problem with that. You know what I mean? Oh, these guys don't value the regular season. Well, the fans seem like they don't value the regular season, right? Like, most fans don't watch a lot of these games, right? Do
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stat watching, a lot of, betting on the sport or whatever, but you're not really watching the games, right? So it's hard as a player to, get myself up for the regular season when the fans
Mm-hmm.
themselves, at least the fans watching at home, aren't up for it, right? So I don't unless they really put like $1 million on the line or something. Like I don't feel as though the whichever team wins should get postseason advantages because I feel like that's
Oh no.
a little much. But
Yeah.
if you put a lot of money on the line, maybe these guys will compete a little bit. But again, it's one of those things that as good as that would be, I would hate to see one of the premier players get fucking hurt in one of these games. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
with that, their season tanks. It's like fuck, man. Like the game is pointless. Like I get tradition and all that, but I
Hmm.
you as me at least me personally as a fan, I want to see the best players competing on the best stage, which is the playoffs, right? So um, that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, All Star game. It's nothing really you could do much about it, right? Right. Like you said, I guess the only thing that you could do is just put some money on the line. Just like you know, what I mean. But at the end of the day, they all making money,
Yeah,
right? It's the best of the best. So it's like I mean, $1 million is $1 million. Don't get me wrong.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong here, right? But I mean, but these are all stars. These all stars are
mhm.
getting paid like what, 30 mil, 40 mil,
Mhm.
50 mil, right?
Mhm.
So it's like it's alright, I guess, right? And then like I think the main thing that took the competitiveness away was that I think I'm not sure if this happened last year, but I know that for this year at least, that they took away the like like the scoring goal. Like you have to get to like 150 or I don't know what it was from the past, whatever, right? But when you don't have a target score, right? It's just like you got fucking teams scoring 200 points. Like it's like
Yeah,
what the fuck,
yeah.
right?
Nobody wants to watch that.
So obviously they're just gonna do some random bullshit, right? And
Mhm.
just fuck around, right? Like you literally see Luka and Jokic just passing it back and forth, and it's
Mhm.
like it is what it is. You got I mean Anthony Edwards said it on like a press conference or whatever, right? Saying that you know at the end of the day, also the All Star break is like it's like a little mini vacay, a little
Mhm.
break from like away like taking things a little bit serious. So it's a lot, for the players, it's like taking a break, having some fun, seeing, hanging out with some guys that you don't really hang out with and like throughout the season, right? So it's like a refreshment away from the game of basketball and stuff like that, right? But I guess like from like the perspective of like competitiveness, obviously like you said, there's nothing much you can really do much about it because nowadays people worry about people like let's just be honest here. People don't worry about the All Star game for
No.
versus like the playoffs, right? Because at the end of the day, you're judged on your success. You know, whether it's during the regular season and then continue on to the postseason,
Mhm.
right? So I mean that's what I got to say for the All Star break. I mean the All Star game. But
Mhm.
then like you said for the dunk contest, I totally agree with that idea. I think Stephen A. even brought it up, right? Where you get like let's say you get three guys from outside the NBA, right? And then you
Yeah.
get three guys from the NBA and just compete with one another. And obviously there's only one person to come away with the prize, like a money prize or
Mhm.
something like that, right? I think it'd
Mhm.
be pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Because not only will like like even if even if the people from outside the NBA they don't even win, it gives them a an audience, a platform
Yeah.
for them to showcase. So like it can help them. I mean, they might not win that prize money, I guess, if they had it online, but they'll definitely gain attraction and like eventually make some money from like a even like if they do stuff on YouTube or like
Yeah.
whatever they do, right, on the social medias. So definitely agree with
Yeah.
that. And like I to be honest, I haven't like paid attention to the slam dunk contest really in such a long time. Like
Mhm.
it's been such a long time where we actually had a great slam dunk contest, man. And
Yeah.
I'm talking about going back to the Aaron Gordon versus Zach LaVine days.
2016. Yeah.
Oh my
Mhm.
god, man. Those were the golden ages of like
Yeah.
slam dunk contests. But I think that said, I mean, we gotta step away from that and talk about the main attraction in All Star break. I feel like, talk
Listen.
about talking about the 3-point contest, and I'm not talking about the men's, Dame winning
Nah,
it.
man.
I'm talking about Steph Curry versus Sabrina, man.
That was, like you just said, that was the highlight of the weekend. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
man.
there was a lot of anticipation, there was a lot of build up, and listen,
Mm-hmm.
them two, they fucking delivered, man. Like,
Oh yeah.
I I don't know how you walk away. Like, there is no loser. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
I don't know how you walk away from that and not having a tremendous amount of respect for both athletes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because listen, those two can flat out shoot the fucking basketball, man. And
Mm-hmm.
seeing two of the best in the world, at what they do, battle it out, man. And all respect to Sabrina for you going from the NBA line. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
she could have, went from the WNBA line, but she said, "No, fuck that. Like, I want to
Mm-hmm.
go from the NBA line." And she was
She
shooting
was
a
gonna
lot
shoot.
better than some of the men, dog. Like,
Bro, she scored 26
compare
in the first round.
crazy, man. Like, she got a burner. You know what I mean? But ultimately, you know, the chef had the chef. You're right. Like, he
Yeah.
knew what time it was. Like,
Yeah.
so. But listen, it was hella competitive, and as a fan, man, like that was the highlight. Like, again, I said of the
Mm-hmm.
weekend. Like, and I know that's not saying much with how low the bar was, but listen, that was a good event. I'm looking forward to them continuing that.
And hey, man, like I mean, they kind of hinted at it. I was like, we'll like running back next year, but maybe they bring a little somebody on with them. I mean,
Listen,
Splash Brothers, Clay coming with Steph. But hey, man,
listen.
I got an idea of another girl to team up with Sabrina. She's in college right now. Clay and Clark, dog. This she got, bro. You talking about a burner? She got a fucking burner, dog.
Listen, I would be all for it, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I love new things, but I love when new things are done well. You know what I mean? I
Oh
love
yeah.
when they're thought out well, they're organized right, and this was
Mm-hmm.
an example of that, right? Um, but with that being said, I feel like now that we're past the All Star break, we're past the All Star game. You know, I feel like we should start talking about, like you said, what you hinted to earlier. This is the final stretch of the season, right? There's a lot
Yep.
of teams gearing up for playoffs. In both conferences is tight. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm curious, what's a team you want to talk about?
Yeah, man. Like I started away with like with the Mavs, man. Like talking about like how before the trade deadline, there was a lot of questions. Kyrie was out, Luca was still playing, but then it's like we're trailing with like the eighth seed, stuff like that, right? And it's like, what is going on? The Mavs need help. They need
Hmm.
serious help, right? But then like after the trade deadline, people's like, okay, some interesting moves, but like we were still, Kyrie is back, and we're all thinking like, how's it really gonna go? Because like PJ Washington, I mean, he was with the Hornets, right? But he was all right. I mean, he wasn't nothing too crazy, right? But Gafford, on the other hand, I mean, he was coming in before he was on the Mavs. He was one of the best defensive players in the league, right? But I feel like that I think 4 games into the like before the All Star break happened, they played amazing, amazing,
Hmm.
man. Like you talking about a guy in Gafford in Washington. This is exactly what they needed. Exactly what they needed. Right? They needed wings, but just bigs in general that are athletic. Right?
Hmm.
Because like if we don't have them, we're so small. We are
Yeah.
so small, really thin. Like bro, when Lively is out, who's our backup center? Dwight fucking Powell. That's the problem. That's the fucking problem, man. And like, if for some of you guys that don't know, we also have a basketball group chat, right? And the amount of times I fucking just go off on a tangent on the White Powell, man,
Hmm.
it's I'm not even gonna go. I'm not even gonna get into that. That could be like a whole separate video,
Oh,
right?
listen.
But no, yeah, but yeah, man. It's good that to have Gafford and Washington, transform the defense, right? Not only defensively, on the offensive side as well. Getting the
Hmm.
boards, offensive boards, right? Causing other players from other teams following them inside the paint, something like that, right?
Hmm.
Gafford. I'm pretty sure, not excluding the game they just played today against the Suns. I'm pretty sure we won, but like the past other 4 games Shoot, he averaged 15 points, 12 rebounds, and like 2.5 blocks. That's
Mm,
insane, man. That's insane efficiency. He's not even playing like almost 30 minutes a game. It's like 28, something like that,
yeah,
right? I'm talking about a guy that can like. I think me and Kyle we talked about it before we hopped on the podcast. He's the definition of the perfect guy that can either start or come off the bench for you, right?
yep,
For any championship winning team,
yep,
right? And then like he alluded to like how back in the day when Russell Westbrook
yeah.
Russell
Westbrook,
Westbrook
man.
when he was on Washington, right? And they played against the Sixers. And then
Listen,
Gafford, he was putting on a little show here and there, and then
front
he
row
was like,
seat to Daniel Gafford and Robin Lopez, man. Like, listen, we ultimately won that series, but I
Mhm.
walked away from that series with a tremendous amount of respect for Daniel Gafford, and that's where he got put on my radar. I'm like, man, like not a lot of
Mhm.
people are talking about. I get it. He's on the Wizards, right?
Yeah.
But not a lot of people are talking about this guy. Like he's relatively young. Like you just said, he's
Mhm.
efficient. You know what I mean? He does his job. And that's all you can ask for, especially for a team like the Mavericks that are trying to make a run. You need guys that you feel comfortable in a playoff setting, giving them 20 minutes. And Daniel
Yeah.
Gafford and PJ Washington are two players that you are comfortable
Mhm.
giving them 20 minutes, whether it's as a starter, whether it's off the bench.
Yeah, and I feel like one like I feel like both guys obviously they both give you some type of defense, right? Because of their length,
Hmm.
because of their size, right? But like Gafford being more defensive, but then PJ Washington, he can be defensive, but he's also an offensive player as well. He
Yeah.
can get his own when called upon, right? We've seen it on the Hornets. He'll sometime go off for like 40, 30, here and there, right?
Hmm.
So I think he'd be a good he's a perfect guy. Then you look at the roster now, right? Adding those two players, you're like, wait a minute here. We got some pretty good depth,
Yeah.
right? Like talking about like it doesn't like talking about like we got a rookie in Derek Lively who's been very very good, right? I think he's ranked number 3 on the rookie of the year board, right? Obviously he's not gonna win it, right? But that's just still good in general, right?
Yeah.
So like you're talking about a team where you can rotate. It doesn't like you like if Lively has like three fouls at this before the what's it called the first half is over, it's all
Hmm.
good because we also have a Gafford. We also have
Yeah.
like a Maxi Kleber and even a Powell. Goddamn
Yeah.
fucking Powell. Like every
Which
time I said that fucking
which
man's name.
like you're saying, like that kind of changes the dynamic of your basketball team because now your
Mm-hmm.
bigs can be a little bit more aggressive, knowing
Yep.
that yeah, if I get into foul trouble, it's fine because I got a guy on the bench that can do the exact same thing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's nothing but good that can come from both those moves. And me personally, I feel like you guys easily won the trade deadline this year,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
but
Then like
you know, I,
last thing I'm just gonna say is that like
mhm,
I'm pretty sure we did win against the Suns today. So I think we went from the 7th seed to the 5th seed because we won the season like series 3-0. So
mhm.
hey man, it's just another way for us to climb the ladder board, and Luca. I'm gonna just say this. I'm gonna just leave it off with this and let you go. But Luca's a different breed, man. Luca's a different
Listen,
breed.
listen, talk about it, man. Like, and I feel like you know, the kind of in tandem with the All Star break and now moving forward, you know, if you guys been paying attention to NBA Twitter or really what's been going on between the kind of the conversation between Patrick Beverly and JJ Redick, right, about Doc Rivers. And I feel like that's the perfect segue into the team I want to talk about, which is the Bucks, right? I feel like going into the season, they were kind of pigeonholed as, between them and the cat, I mean, them and the Celtics, right? Or who was going to be the best out of the East. And the Celtics have kind of held up their end of the bargain, but the Bucks have fallen a little bit to the wayside. And I mean, at least for me, I have yet to hear like why Adrian Griffin was fired. Like I have no idea. Like there's some talks about the locker losing the locker room and all this, but at least in terms of like winning games, right? Like they were on a good run. And ever since, Doc has come in, and, I'm sure these guys they have too much talent on that roster to not find their stride. But it's been pretty jarring to see, the record that Doc has come in, and really they have not played well. And it'd be one thing if, okay, you're losing to, the cream of the crop, but they have some bad losses in there where it's unexcusable, right? And one player you cannot blame is Giannis. Giannis has been on a tear this season, and that this would be a video for another day, but he has been arguably the best player in the league this season, right? On both ends of the floor. So when you have a player like that, it's inexcusable to have these losses, right? And a lot of it, outside of Doc, I mean, and again, I trust him as a player. He's shown what he can do. But Damian Lillard, like, he has to step up, right? Like, since he's been signed, he's had a little bit of a down year, right? Like, a little bit of it is understandable. This is his first time ever being like the second best player on the team, right? So it's a different role, but he has to be better, right? He has to shoot better. He has to be more aggressive. This is something that Giannis has talked about, in his most recent interview. Like, when Damian Lillard is attacking, when he's aggressive, that's when they're at their best, right? So I'll be looking forward to seeing, right, going into the playoffs, what seeding they wind up ending with, and going into the playoffs, like, okay, how has this team come together? Because this is a team that could win a championship, right? So that is the ultimate goal. Um, but all of this, in my opinion, really goes back to Doc Rivers, man. Like, I don't know why this man keeps getting jobs, right? Like,
Talk
outside
about it.
of the Celtics, where it was one of the best NBA rosters of all time. I don't understand. It was kind of hard not to win a championship at least one year with that roster. I don't understand why year after year he keeps getting these chances when year after year it doesn't end well, right? Like, I don't know why it's always him. Why is he always the option, right? Like, I don't know if it's just connections or what have you, but listen, again, they have the talent to find their stride, so that definitely, I'll be on the lookout for them.
Yeah, man. Like you said, like it's a lot of like. Although it's crazy that we're talking about this because they are a top three seed in the East,
Yeah.
right? And it's like we know the Bucks, right? They're always gonna be at the top of the East, right? But this year just doesn't feel right. Like I know, like we all know that they can't. We all know what they can be, but it's
Mhm.
like when you enter the season fresh off getting Dame,
Yeah.
right, and all that, right? Your expectation is like, yo, it's finals or bust, right?
Has to be.
And right, and so it's like there's no excuses. There is no excuses, right? Like you said, I mean, Doc Rivers, given what you said, it's like, why does this man keep on getting jobs? It does not make any sense, right? He's failed everywhere he's gone except for the
Mhm.
Celtics. But like with the Celtics team that he had, so much depth, so much
Yeah.
like it was legitimately a big three,
Mhm.
right? But
Could have been a big four depending on how you view Rajon Rondo. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, for sure, man. But like, but yeah, man, like it's just mind boggling on like how how they're gonna operate because they might here. I'll say this: they can still finish number two, but I feel like honestly, from what I see right now, depending who they play, they can get bounced up the first. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, man. And that's a thing that you do not want to hear coming from like a team that's like you're gonna play a low a lower half team, right?
Mhm.
That barely scraped it in, right? But with that said, I talked about one West guy. He talked about one team from the East. Let's switch it up a little bit, right?
Mhm.
So now I'm going to talk about a team from the East. He's going to talk about from the West. I'm going to just get it started, man. You said it earlier. You said like obviously the Mavericks won the trade deadline, right? But I think trades overall, just like within the season, inside the season, since it started, it's got to be the Knicks,
Mhm.
and like the transformation they have done, of course, during the course of this whole season so far, it's like it's amazing, man. Like we always talk about the Knicks, how like their fans are like crazy, and how like they have high expectations for no reason, right? But this year, I feel like it's finally a year where they can actually have some realistic high expectations,
Mm-hmm.
right? You got you got a guy in Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, he is that dog. He is
Mm-hmm.
him. He is the king of New York on that team, right? And so
100%.
like he's playing damn near. I mean, depending on how you want to view it, you could very well see him as an MVP candidate,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
Depending how how he finishes off. But like following with that, Julius Randle, he's fixed up his effort. He's putting up full effort every single game, and I love to see it. I love to see
Mm-hmm.
it, man. And then let's get into the trade acquisitions they got. OG Anunoby, one of my favorite underrated players in the league, man. Like I feel like in my opinion, ever since he got ever since he got drafted and he was on the team with with Kawhi and everything, he just for me, he reminded me a lot of Kawhi in the in his
Okay.
early stages for sure. Like they play really good defense. Their offense not really there. They're still trying to like figure what they do well and stuff like that. But I feel like he can definitely be a more offensive player down the line, right?
Yeah,
But
100%.
but the way he's able to enhance their defense significantly, I'm pretty sure they went like from middle of the pack to number one ever
Yeah.
since he was acquired, right? And then you talk about the bigs that they have as well. One of the most underrated. Like like that's the theme here. Underrated
Mm-hmm.
pickups, right? One of the most underrated pickups they got in the offseason was Isaiah Hartenstein, man.
Yeah.
Right? Come from the Clippers. He was a solid role player, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then coming to the Knicks, he was playing pretty solid. But then when what's it called Mitchell Robinson went down,
Yeah.
he played amazing. Talking about like
Mm-hmm.
you didn't miss a beat. If anything, you played
No.
better, right? And so you can only imagine when Mitchell Robinson is like finally like fully healthy. That team can get real scary real fast, right? And
Yeah.
then the other trade acquisition they got, right? Bojan Bogdanovic. And talking about a scorer off the bench is what you really need, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like right now, like all the trades that they done without a first round pick. So who knows what
Yeah.
they do? Who knows what they do this season? But then this season in the playoffs and whatever, right? And then heading into off season, they can make some big moves, man. So it's definitely exciting how they are going to like play out this second half of the season. And yeah, man, they're definitely a team to watch.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the stats right now. Like, if I'm not mistaken, uh, this is his second game as a Nick, and
Oh yeah, he
he
went off.
just played the Sixers. The man dropped 22 points on 8 for 13 shooting, right off the bench in
Yeah.
24 minutes. Like you just said, we talk about underrated pickups, like similar to when we're talking about the Cavs. I mean, not the Cavs, the Mavs. Um, Guys that you feel comfortable giving 20 minutes a game in the playoffs, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and not to mention Alec Burks, another guy that they picked up. Like, under Tibbs, like this defense is gonna be flying around. They're not gonna be easy to score on. They're gonna grind you out, right? You got to be able to, get buckets in the half court. Like, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing, you know, Knicks basketball in the playoffs, and that's coming from a Sixers fan, right? I hate New York, but I can't I can't deny how fun this basketball team is, right? When you talk about personalities, Josh Hart and all those boys like Dante DiVincenzo, like they have a lot of you know guys that you want to root for, right? A lot of underdogs, a lot
Villanova.
of guys that got discarded from the teams that drafted them, got discarded from teams, right? And they all kind of, came together. Like, I don't think there's really any player, I think, besides Mitchell Robinson, that's really making a contribution for this team that was drafted by the Knicks, right? So they've just really done a good job of finding guys that fit the culture and that fit together. But I'll parlay that back in over to the West, and again, talking about kind of that conjunction between the All Star game and now moving forward. I want to talk about a team that, in my opinion, got shafted. Right? Like, I don't understand how the Kings. I believe at the time before the All Star break or whatever, they were like they're like the sixth seed or whatever. Now they're the eighth
Hmm.
seed. In the Kings, where you have two players, Sabonis and Fox, that neither one of them was an All Star.
That's crazy.
It's insane. Like, Sabonis leading the league in double doubles. You got De'Aaron Fox, who's averaging 20. What is this? 27, 4 and 6 on almost 47% shooting from the field. Like, I don't know what more that anybody wanted out of this team in terms of getting the recognition and accolades, but this is definitely a team that I've been dialed into, right? Because I love De'Aaron Fox. He's criminally underrated. You know what I mean? When we talk about some of the best young guards in the league, he's always a
Yeah,
name that
talk
gets
about it,
left
man.
out, and I have no idea why. Like, he's shown last season in the playoffs that he's able to turn his game up a notch. Going toe to toe with the veteran Warriors. Like, you know, so again, I I'm very curious to see how this second half of the season, if they go on kind of a run, because they're they're the eighth seed right now, but they're maybe 4 games back from the 4 seed. So it's like it's not out of the realm of possibility that they can kind of recapture that kind of that fire that they had last season, right? Like the fucking beam, man. Like, and listen, if I'm a team in the playoffs, if I'm a high seed team in the playoffs, that is not a team I'm looking forward to playing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
If they do kind of stay around that eighth seed, like, if I'm, if I'm the Timberwolves or the Thunder, like, that's not a team that's going to be easy to put away, right? Where
Hmm.
you got those two studs, where you got Keegan Murray, shooting the way he's been shooting, Harrison Barnes, like all those boys, like it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the playoffs.
Yeah, man. Like the Kings, I always felt ever since last season, it's like, yo, they're one piece away. They're
Hmm.
literally one piece away. If they get that one big piece to put in their in their little puzzle
Hmm.
set they got, they can cook something crazy. They can cook something crazy, right? Because like you talking about two guys, right? That are like they're not only offensive, but they're also defensive. Right? So like
Yeah,
Sabonis have gone better on defense. Like like
100%.
let's be honest here, man. Like he wasn't the old Indiana Sabonis where like he'll play defense here and there. No, like ever since he got traded to the Kings, right? He's like, yo, it's kind of crazy, but the Kings, you're put in a situation where like you're able to compete, right? And so
Hmm.
when you know that you're playing, meaningful games, and it's like, yo, we're going to the playoffs. We're going out here just to make a deep run, and not only make a deep run. Every team's goal is to win the NBA Finals, right?
Hmm.
And my honest opinion is like I don't care if you're a lottery team. I don't care if you just drafted number one, like this past draft. Like if you don't win the finals, it goes for all teams. Like if you don't win the
Hmm.
finals, it's a failure for all y'all. Time for all y'all to reset,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like that goes with every sport. Whether it's
Hmm.
basketball, football, baseball, hockey,
Hmm. Whatever.
you named the whole lot, right? And so, the Kings are one of those teams, like you said, is, you know, they're, I think they're like one of those teams that is the perfect blend of like veterans, but also like young guys there, right?
Hmm.
Right? Because like Sabonis and Fox, they're like young veterans, kind of, because
Yeah.
they've been in the league for a while, right? But
Hmm.
they're not like old,
Nah.
right? They're here for the long run, right?
Hmm.
But it's like you said, like it's going to be really interesting on how they're going to play out because when you get to playoffs, they're a scary team if one of the top teams are playing them, because especially for the Thunder, because the Thunder, like, they are playing really well right now, but they're a young team,
Yeah.
right? Like, you don't know how they're gonna do it in the playoffs, because that's a different environment, that's a different pressure that's put
Mhm.
upon you, right? And even the Timberwolves, I mean, they haven't been in a crazy number one seed. There's like, yo, that's
Mhm.
pressure, right?
Yeah.
So like, you better show up. It's like, here's the thing: playoffs is like, you put up or shut up,
Put up a shot. I
right?
mean,
Win or
it's
go home.
want to go home, right? So, definitely looking forward to the second half of this season. Like, in my opinion, this is where, like we said at the top of the show, like, where shit gets real, right? It gets
Mm-hmm.
that once you get past that kind of All-Star break, that realization sets in. Like, man, we only got a couple more months, and then we're in the playoffs, so we're out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, we're looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say, right? Like, first of all, did you watch the All Star Weekend? Did you watch any of the events? If you did, what was your thoughts on the dunk contest, the 3-point contest? Sabrina and Steph, the All Star game. If you have any suggestions on how they can improve the All Star Weekend or whatever, you know, definitely drop that down in the comments below. We'll definitely be looking out for it. I want to say, all the support that we begin on these videos, man. Like, we definitely appreciate you guys tapping in
Yes,
and
sir.
watching and sharing. Like, again, like I said, one of our past videos, that puts the battery in our back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where, some days you might not be feeling it or whatever, where, be like, man, like, let's load up the podcast. So,
Yes, sir.
this is the first basketball video we've done. So, if
Mm-hmm.
you have any suggestions or whatever, or topics that you want to hear us talk about, again, leave that in the comment section below. But, with
Mm-hmm.
that, we'll catch you on the next one.
Yes, sir. Peace.